Bonsoir tout le monde. Good evening. My name is Pierre Klein. I'm co-chair of the Conference of INGO Committee for the European Social Charter. Mon nom est Pierre Klein, je suis coprésident avec Peter Haag de Caritas Europa, coprésident du comité pour la Charte sociale européenne de la Conférence des OING. Et donc avec les membres de la Conférence des OING, nous avons préparé ce moment et avec le soutien de tout le Conseil de l'Europe. I'm co-chair with Peter Haag from Caritas Europa, and together with the CINGO members and all the people from the Council of Europe, we prepare this event. And to enter in this event, we are lucky because it's every year a strong support. Pour rentrer dans ce moment, nous sommes heureux d'avoir la chorale du Conseil de l'Europe, so the choir of the Council of Europe, who will lead us into the ceremony, qui va nous introduire dans cette cérémonie avec un chant. Merci à eux. Thank you. Thank you. Je laisse maintenant Gerhard Ermischer, président de la conférence des OING, vous accueillir. Now Gerhard Ermischer, the chair of the Conference of INGO, is welcoming you.
Hello and welcome to the ceremony. Well, it's always difficult to say not to celebrate, but more or less to think about the day on eradication of poverty, and it is a long-standing tradition that the Conference of INGOs makes an event on that occasion. It normally falls in the time when we have our October session of the conference, so we are not always able to do it exactly on the 17th of October, but as close as possible. The motto for the day today, which is set by the United Nations, because this is a global day, it's not just a European one, so actually it's under the aegis of the United Nations, was ending social institutional maltreatment by ensuring respect and effective support for families. Social and institutional maltreatment. And this is really an important feature, because there are two ways of maltreat or discriminate people. The one we all think about is the social maltreatment. That is when our fellow citizens don't treat us with respect, for what reasons ever. Because they don't like the way we are, the way we speak, they don't like how we live and how we define ourselves, or simply because people are poor or are different, and that's reason enough not to like them. But the other one is the institutional maltreatment. And that is a very different cup of tea. Because institutional maltreatment means that the institutions which actually have been established to protect those in need of protection don't do their job, but they add to the burden the people already have to carry. And I have been to conferences of the Fundamental Rights Agency and other occasions when we have heard about absolutely abhorring stories about how institutions, even social institutions of the state, which are there to care for children, which are there to care for people with disabilities, which are there to care for people in need, are actually discriminating and maltreating the people they should take care of. And people who already are in that situation, that they are shunned by society and sometimes even their own families, then being disappointed and maltreated by those who actually are paid for and by the law given the responsibility to care for them, is of course a double bitterness. And that is why it is quite a good theme for us here, because we are representing two sides of the medal already. We, as the Conference of INGOs, we represent society. And that's where we have also to act in the civil society with our peers, to act against any kind of discrimination, of that social discrimination. But we are also here part of the Council of Europe. And the Council of Europe is the norm-setting institute when it comes to human rights. So this is the institution that should take care of this institutional maltreatment. And in ways it has the instruments like the Social Charter and the European Social Committee, and it has the Court of Human Rights, and it has all its conventions which protect people and have monitoring mechanisms which should help those who are most in need and who are not just forgotten by society, but then in the end even mistreated by the state institutions. So I think it's a motto which is really, really very well chosen for us, and I'm quite happy that I have the honor to open this event today, and I hope that you all will take something with you from this event, especially when we hear testimonies of those themselves afflicted. Thank you.
Merci Gerhard. Thank you, Gerhard. You know that members of CINGO are involved, are gathering members in society to act and run projects. We invited people from ATD Alsace, Yvette, and people from a project called YOUROPE from Poland today, Oliwier and Wiktoria, and they will share brief messages about how citizens experience this situation. So first, Yvette will speak in French, and then after we'll have Oliwier and Wiktoria in English. Donc maintenant, comme à l'habitude, la conférence des ONG invite non seulement à être là, mais aussi des personnes qui font partie de nos organisations à témoigner. Et donc nous avons Yvette d'ATD d'Alsace, et puis Oliwier et Wiktoria du projet YOUROPE, qui veut donner la parole aux jeunes qui veut permettre à ce que les jeunes s'engagent et dans leur communauté et dans la vie démocratique pour que ce soit plus inclusif et plus pertinent. Donc j'invite d'abord Yvette à venir vous partager un court témoignage.
Bonjour à vous tous. Bonjour à vous tous. Depuis des années, ici, avec vous, pour cette rencontre devant la dalle. Chaque année, je viens avec un livre d'or et j'espère qu'à la fin de la cérémonie, vous accepterez de le signer. Je vous dis merci d'avance. Je suis membre d'ATD Alsace. Pour nous, c'est très important de savoir que cette année, le thème officiel de la journée du refus de la misère, c'est de mettre fin aux maltraitances institutionnelles et sociales que nous vivons dans nos vies. Il y a des questions qui sont souvent dans nos têtes. Pourquoi avait-il un tel pouvoir sur moi? Pourquoi croyait-il être seul à avoir raison? Heureusement que j'ai des témoins de mon passé, sinon on ne me croirait pas. Avec ATD Cameroun, nous connaissons des parents en France qui se mettent ensemble pour dialoguer avec les travailleurs sociaux, les juges et les avocats et leurs avocats. Nous demandons le respect de nos droits et le soutien dont nous avons besoin. Une aide qui ne soit pas une assistante mais augmente notre pouvoir d'agir et celui qui nous soutienne. Les maltraitances, qu'elles soient institutionnelles ou sociales, ne sont pas une fatalité, mais elles sont parfois des violences qui brisent les vies. Il faut que cela change.
Merci Yvette. And now, ils vont vous lire un témoignage qui a été préparé pour être déclamé en slam dans 2 jours à Paris, sur le parvis du Trocadéro, là où il y a la première des dalles similaires à celle-ci. Ils viennent de Pologne et peut-être ils ne le savent pas, mais il y a aussi une dalle similaire à celle-ci en Pologne qui se trouve à Kielce. They are going to read a text, a poetry, which will be spoken out in Paris, where the very first stone is laid on the Trocadero Plaza, the Human Rights Plaza. But they come from Poland and maybe they don't know, but they have a similar stone in Poland too, which is laid in the city of Kielce.
Misery. I know it. My journey, I want to tell you about it. In France, I wanted to live because I wanted a future for my daughter. So yes, my journey, I want to tell you about it. To get a visa to Dakar, I left. It wasn't easy in Dakar. Sometimes we ate, sometimes we didn't eat. And after 5 years, we left for Mauritania, and from there to Morocco.
And after 5 days without eating, we said to ourselves, let's go. Let's take a boat and go to Spain. We'll get there. Easy or difficult, with or without food. Dakar, Mauritania, Morocco, Spain. At school, my daughter always was there. Misery, I know it. Years of suffering. And in the end, we arrived in France. The family was reunited in a social hotel. Lots of friends we made, but the misery is still there. A room for a family, it's not possible for a lifetime. I know what poverty is, but for me, I've never stopped hoping. Thank you for listening to us.
Nous accueillons le secrétaire général adjoint du Conseil de l'Europe. Merci d'être avec nous. We welcome the Deputy Secretary General of the Council of Welcome. Nous avons maintenant un moment pour nous remémorer ce que nous venons d'entendre. We have now a moment to think about what we just heard with the Council of Europe Choir. Everybody sings freedom. Donc le chœur du Conseil de l'Europe va nous permettre de méditer un peu sur ce que nous venons d'entendre. Merci, thank you. Déjà dit, actuellement la présidence du Conseil de l'Europe est tenue par Malte et nous invitons une personne qui vient de ce pays, un ancien ministre des Affaires familiales et de la solidarité, aussi membre de l'Assemblée parlementaire du Conseil de l'Europe, Michael Farrugia, à s'adresser à nous. We invite now Michael Farrugia from Malta. We know it's the time of the Maltese presidency for the Council of Europe, Michael Ferrugia was prime minister, not prime minister, sorry, was Minister of Family Affairs and of Solidarity in his country, and is now member of PACE of the Parliamentary Assembly.
Thank you for the promotion. Today we just finished a conference which was very interesting. It was a conference which spoke about health issues of the past, the present, and health issues that are developing, health issues towards the future. But I was invited over here to speak about health and poverty and the interrelation, and there is an interrelation between health and poverty. Poverty can have a harmful and wide-reaching impact on health, which eventually enters a negative cycle, including mental health issues and other health issues where the harmful impacts further prevent them from overcoming poverty. Investing in health to reduce poverty is one of the targets on the way forward. Health is one of the fundamental rights of every human being, without distinction of race, religion, political belief, economic or social condition. Beyond its intrinsic value to individuals, health is also central to overall human development and to the reduction of poverty. The poor suffer worse health and die younger. For poor people especially, health is also a crucially important asset. Good health contributes to development in a number of ways. It increases labor productivity, educational attainment, and investment. And it facilitates the demographic transition, supporting poor health systems. And that is the second item. By strengthening the capacity of the public sector and supporting the private sector to offer services that are of good quality and responsive to the special health needs and demands of poor people, in addition to the best care and equity to the general population. Thirdly, focusing on key policy areas for poor health. Ability to afford nutritious food apart from good health services is one of the essential items apart from good health. This, coupled with good free education, food security, safe water, sanitation, and energy. Fourthly, the transnational and transcontinental efforts support to reduce substantially poverty and conflicts, avoiding the need of illegal migration, which we have already listened to the poem, with all the risks, mental health issues, and disillusion. I have to mention the importance of ensuring affordable area access for poor countries and people to essential drugs and vaccines. On the Malta level, we have taken a number of initiatives in the last 12 years. And for those who say it is impossible to reduce severe poverty and material deprivation, I'll tell them you are wrong. It only needs initiatives. It only needs vision. And I am honored to have been one at the forefront in my country to have taken a number of initiatives together, not alone, with other colleagues in Cabinet in the fight against poverty. And let me mention a few examples. The introduction of free childcare, reforming the pension scheme, increasing the minimum pension. Pensioners get an additional increase apart from the yearly cost of living increase. National insurance pension is not taxable. Stabilized and subsidized energy tariffs. Tapering of benefits for those who enter employment and they are tailored over a 3-year period. In-work benefits on top and above children's allowance for each child to working single or couples in work with low to medium income. Housing initiatives to low to medium income earners to own their property, not rent, not social housing only. Social housing for those who are on the poorer side, but making them own property. And 85% of the Maltese population are homeowners, which in reality it's an investment to the future. Near full employment, long-standing free good healthcare, long-standing free good education and free, long-standing free excellent post-secondary and tertiary education, where our students get a stipend to continue studying, and in the meantime also get yearly national insurance credits. These are just a few. These are a few. This is a success story. We are ready to share our success story with others. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Farubia. Maintenant, nous accueillons Oliwier de Scuter, qui est un membre du Comité européen pour les droits sociaux, ici au Conseil de l'Europe, qui est aussi rapporteur spécial pour les Nations Unies sur la question de l'extrême pauvreté et des droits humains. We welcome Oliwier de Scuter, who is here member of the European Committee for Social Rights, and he's also a special rapporteur at United Nations level on extreme poverty and human rights.
Bonsoir à tous et à toutes. Je voudrais d'abord remercier naturellement Pierre Klein de ATD Cameroun et Peter Verhaeg de Caritas Europe pour avoir organisé cette cérémonie à l'occasion de la Journée internationale de l'éradication de la pauvreté. Je voudrais exprimer mes excuses pour le fait que nous soyons tous des hommes à nous exprimer comme ça devant vous. C'est malheureusement en partie la conséquence de ce que Yvette Nolan, qui est la présidente du Comité européen des droits sociaux, n'a pas pu être parmi nous ces jours-ci en raison de circonstances personnelles impératives, et nous regrettons tous et toutes naturellement son absence et le déséquilibre qui en résulte. Voilà, je voudrais vous remercier de votre présence et peut-être saisir l'occasion de cet échange pour évoquer l'importance de fonder la lutte contre la pauvreté sur les droits humains. Comme vous le savez, la lutte contre la pauvreté a longtemps été vue comme d'abord exigeant qu'un État social robuste soit mis sur pied, qui assure la compensation des personnes exclues de la société par des mécanismes d'impôts et de transferts, de manière, si vous voulez, à redistribuer les revenus vers des personnes en situation plus précaire. Et puis, l'État-providence s'est progressivement aussi tourné vers l'activation des prestations sociales pour encourager les gens à être au travail. Et c'est ce qu'on appelle l'inclusion active. Et puis, plus récemment, l'État-providence s'est complété d'un État de l'investissement social. On a compris qu'il fallait aussi investir dans le logement, dans l'alimentation, dans l'accès aux soins de santé ou encore dans une alimentation adéquate pour réduire les facteurs structurels qui causent la pauvreté et qui perpétuent la pauvreté d'une génération à l'autre. L'OCDE, d'ailleurs, il y a un mois, a publié un rapport « To have and to have not, how to bridge the gaps in opportunities » in which the OECD showed that 66% of the outcomes achieved by adults depend on inheritance and on circumstances beyond the reach of the individual. In other terms, child poverty is a life sentence that is imposed on a child for a crime that he or she has not committed. And we must do everything it takes to break these cycles that perpetuate poverty. So in other terms, the fight against poverty relies on post-market compensation, in social protection, ensuring full coverage, adequacy of benefits, and sustainable financing. It relies on in-market inclusion in the employment market, and it relies on free market prevention. And it is these three pillars that should be mobilized in the fight against poverty. Et je pense que les droits humains peuvent servir dans chacun de ces trois piliers. Le droit à la protection sociale, à la sécurité sociale, garanti aussi bien dans la Charte sociale européenne que dans le pacte international relatif aux droits économiques, sociaux et culturels. Le droit au travail, garanti là encore dans ces deux instruments. Et puis le droit à un logement adéquat, à une alimentation adéquate, le droit d'accès à la santé, ou encore le droit à l'enseignement, sont des droits qui peuvent orienter l'action des gouvernements pour mettre en œuvre leur obligation de lutter contre la pauvreté et l'exclusion sociale. Et je rappelle à cet égard que l'article 30 de la Charte sociale européenne, tel que révisé en 1996, garantit un droit magnifique, le droit à être protégé contre la pauvreté et l'exclusion sociale. Ce ne sont pas des mots. C'est l'obligation pour tout gouvernement d'adopter une stratégie nationale de lutte contre la pauvreté qui identifie les causes de la pauvreté, qui travaille sur ces causes et qui s'impose des mesures très concrètes qui, étalées dans le temps, vont finir par faire une différence. The duty to adopt a national strategy against poverty is a duty that is inscribed in Article 30 of the European Social Charter, and it's not only about a grand vision about a world without poverty, it's also about the steps that will take us there. It's not about architecture, it's about music, in which each note counts in the trajectory towards eradicating poverty. Et aujourd'hui, avec l'Union européenne qui s'apprête à adopter une stratégie de lutte contre la pauvreté à l'échelle de l'Union européenne, j'espère, c'est le vœu que je formule et c'est la demande que j'ai faite à la Commission européenne, que la Commission européenne va aussi demander à tous les États membres de l'Union européenne de se doter d'une telle stratégie nationale, conformément à ce qu'exige l'article 30 de la Charte sociale européenne. Fonder ce combat sur les droits humains est important pour trois autres raisons. D'abord, cela permet de surmonter l'écart parfois important entre les droits sur papier et les droits dont les gens jouissent concrètement, effectivement. The gap between legal entitlements and effective enjoyment of rights, what is called sometimes the non-take-up of rights, le non-recours aux droits, qui résulte de l'absence d'information, de la digitalisation, de l'accès à la protection sociale, qui résulte des obstacles bureaucratiques de plus en plus nombreux que les personnes en pauvreté doivent affronter pour avoir accès aux bénéfices qui leur sont reconnus, et bien entendu qui peut résulter de la crainte, de la stigmatisation, de la honte, quand on a l'impression de devoir faire appel à la charité publique. Fonder la lutte contre la pauvreté sur les droits humains, c'est aussi dire qu'il faut aller vers ces personnes, aller les chercher là où elles sont pour leur fournir l'information dont elles ont besoin pour exercer leurs droits et proactivement les accompagner dans la recherche de solutions. Définir les personnes en pauvreté comme des personnes qui sont titulaires de droits, qui peuvent exiger de la part des gouvernements obligés de leur fournir du soutien, c'est ça l'approche fondée sur les droits humains, c'est une manière de réduire l'impact de ce non-recours aux droits. Deuxième raison de fonder la lutte contre la pauvreté sur les droits humains, c'est que cela nous oblige à donner une possibilité pour les personnes en pauvreté de participer à la recherche de solutions, de co-identifier la manière dont on peut surmonter les obstacles qu'elles rencontrent, au-delà des consultations parfois très cosmétiques auxquelles elles sont associées. Il faut les reconnaître comme des agents capables d'identifier ce qui marche. Des stratégies de lutte contre la pauvreté qui misent sur ce que ces personnes peuvent apporter comme savoir sont des stratégies qui seront plus légitimes, elles seront plus efficaces, elles seront plus pertinentes, parce qu'elles seront mieux informées. Et croyez-moi, la lutte contre la pauvreté est une tâche complexe, exigeante. On ne peut pas se permettre le luxe de se priver de cette expertise unique des personnes qui sont en pauvreté. And then there's a third reason for grounding the fight against poverty in human rights, and that is that it obliges us to screen laws and policies to identify instances of discrimination against people in poverty. And under the European Social Charter, under Article E of the European Social Charter, there's a duty not to tolerate any discrimination in the enjoyment of the rights of the Charter, including on the basis of socio-economic disadvantage, on the basis of poverty. And the same consequences follows from the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. Now, this prohibition of discrimination is violated every time a law or a policy encourages negative stereotyping against people in poverty and thus falls into povertyism, which is as much a scourge as are racism or sexism or homophobia or ableism. And for example, we see all across Europe anti-begging regulations that are being adopted often at municipal level, vagrancy laws that criminalize poverty and homelessness, and the Special Rapporteur on adequate housing and myself as Special Rapporteur on extreme poverty and human rights, we published a study on that topic in 2024. Now, in the work of the European Committee of Social Rights, this plays an increasingly important role. And for example, in a decision we adopted in September 2024, Defense for Children International and others versus Spain, that concerned the shanty town of La Cañada Real in the outskirts of Madrid, we identified that as a major problem. We received testimonies from children who kept secret the fact that they were living in Cañada Real because they feared the harassment they would be subjected to in school. And these children sometimes did not go to school because they feared this kind of harassment. And I remember doing a film with ATD Carmonde, un film qui avait pour titre « Ne dis pas d'où tu viens », parce qu'une des personnes dans ce film qui parlait de la discrimination que subissent ces personnes en pauvreté disait « Moi, quand je me présente à un employeur, je n'ose pas dire où j'habite parce que je crains de subir les stéréotypes négatifs qui s'attachent au lieu où j'habite. » So let us dream, rêvons un peu, rêvons au jour où le fait d'être une personne en pauvreté ne sera plus source de stigmatisation et de honte. Let us dream to a day when being in poverty will be not a source of shame, but instead perhaps a source of pride, because there is pride in overcoming the obstacles that poverty entails. Thank you very much.
Merci Olivier de Scuter, thank you. And now we are happy to give the floor to the Deputy Secretary General of the Council of Europe, Björn Berg. Donc nous laissons la parole au secrétaire général adjoint du Conseil de l'Europe.
A very good afternoon to all of you. President Ermischer, the Honorable Michael Farrugia, Professor de Schutter, dear friends, poverty is a vicious circle. This vicious circle of poverty encompasses the globe. According to the United Nations, more than 1.1 billion people face acute multi-dimensional poverty. And the most recent statistics suggest that 93.3 million people in the European Union are at risk of poverty or social exclusion. This in turn exacerbates the urgent need to face the challenges. The late activist Dame Jane Goodall saw poverty as the #1 threat to the world. And she said, if you really are poor and you are living in a rural area, you are going to cut down the last trees because you need to grow food and because you need money and you want to make charcoal. If you're living in an urban area and you are really poor, you're going to buy the cheapest food because you have to. You're not going to say, was it ethically made? And so the land is poorer, climate change intensifies, and the people affected the most by climate change are the poor. Even though the poorest half of the world contributes only a small share of emissions. Dear friends, poverty is a human rights violation that affects us all, because we are all connected. So we must work together to break the cycle by addressing the root causes. We must use resources effectively to change the status quo by developing wage policies to ensure families can afford necessities, housing policies that assist those most in need and prevent homelessness, and through investing in education and healthcare. Such policies are fundamental for equity, and they are fundamental for our collective future. As the President of the European Committee of Social Rights, Alfie Nolan, has said, and I quote her, "The new democratic pact that does not encompass a social rights-based conception of social justice will not speak to the socioeconomic inequalities and concerns about the cost of living and precarity that constitute a present danger to commitment to democracy in Europe." The Reykjavik Declaration affirmed the importance of social justice as a key factor for strong democracy. In its wake, a high-level conference on the European Social Charter was held in Vilnius last year, and the Republic of Moldova will host the next one in Chisinau next year. It will address the links between social justice, democratic stability, and security, and is expected to pave the way for an action plan on the European Social Charter. And last month, the Council of Europe declared its wish to join the ILO-led Global Coalition for Social Justice, reinforcing our core values and commitment to social justice. To conclude, let me restate the wise words on poverty by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Too often, people living in poverty are blamed, stigmatized, and pushed into the shadows. Yet poverty is not a personal failure. It is a systemic failure, a denial of dignity and human rights. This is the challenge we are facing. Nothing more, nothing less. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Secretary General. Merci. Notre rencontre arrive à sa fin. La tradition, c'est que nous lisons le texte qui est ici en français et à côté sur une plaque en anglais. Ce texte, j'ai pu le distribuer à certains et si certaines veulent repartir avec le texte, il y a encore des copies. Nous allons inviter encore un membre, un citoyen maltais à venir lire ce texte en anglais Et je terminerai par une lecture de l'appel, simplement, qui se trouve sur la dalle. Et après cela, nous écouterons la chorale et on pourra se rassembler et se terminer ensemble en ayant dans les oreilles l'hymne européen qui suivra le dernier chant de la chorale. So now we listen to the text of the stone. There will be the choir, there will be the European hymn, and it will be the moment to leave this space. Thank you. Thank you again.
Wherever men and women are condemned to live in poverty, human rights are violated. To come together to ensure that these rights are respected is our solemn duty. These words came from Father Joseph Wierzyński.
Là où des hommes sont condamnés, des femmes sont condamnées à vivre dans la misère, les droits de l'homme sont violés. S'unir pour les faire respecter est un devoir sacré. Père Joseph Wierzyński. Merci à tous. Merci à l'équipe de la société civile NGO Unit du Conseil de l'Europe pour nous avoir aidés. Et n'oubliez pas le livre d'or d'Yvette. Thank you everybody, and thank you for the NGO unit of the Council of Europe. And don't forget, if you want to write a few words in the book, souvenir book of Yvette. Thank you. Bravo.